Hello and welcome to Pedal of the Month episode Potato. Who knows? I don't know what order I'm going to put them out in. In order of filming, this is the first modulation pedal that I've done. And I'm going to do a phaser. Phaser is a really weird one. I don't remember ever coveting a phaser. I'm not sure I knew what a phaser was. And then I was in that kind of let's build lots of pedals phase when I was living in Amsterdam. And at some point I was looking through one of the websites, Build Your Own Clone, and I saw a phaser and it was relatively cheap, and I thought, why not? Let's build a phaser. I've built everything else. So that's why I have a phaser. I don't really know what it does. It kind of makes a kind of spacey sound. It sounds like the kind of weird end of an analog chorus. It sounds like the non-cheesy end of a flange. Grew up knowing all about flange. For some reason, everybody had a flange pedal. No one knew what to do with them. They had one sound. It was like hitting a sample of a jet plane. So I never really saw the point in a flange pedal. I've still never built one or owned one. And that's, I think, going to be my next purchase, so that I'll get a top end fancy one. I'll build it so it's cheaper. And that might allow me to see what flange is. But I kind of think of phaser as the kind of the subtle flange, right? The good thing about modulation pedals is that you kind of need to couple them up with other pedals. Some people will get through life with a really nice valve amp and a Boss Blues driver, and that'll be all they need for their entire life. But as soon as you have modulation pedals, they kind of interact with other things. So we have the dry sound. Guild S50 SG copy, could do with a dust. Going into a Fender Champion 600 5-watt valve amp. Now with phaser. It's a kind of so it kind of tremolos at the same time as going joie, joie, right? We'll do that again, joie, joie, right? It makes it feel a wee bit like wet and squishy. Like kind of marshy. Right, so it's really cool. It's quite a nice sound. It's quite subtle. On this pedal we have depth and speed or rate. So you whack up the depth. It doesn't make a huge difference, right? There's an internal bias in this pedal, so there's another wee dial, and you're meant to dial in your sound. As a result, I don't own another phaser, so I don't really know what phasers are like. This is a copy of an MXR script phaser. And I don't know whether I've done it right, but I quite like what it does. But sometimes, like normally you turn up the depth and the effect gets more intense, heavier. With this one, I feel there's little sweet spots between the depth and the rate that you find. So I'll put it on no depth. There's still something going on there. And then I'll put it on full depth. So there's a mild increase in depth, but not what you would expect from the full dial. That may be my problem. But, as I say, I like what I have, so I don't want to mess with it. Right, and then we've got the rate. So it obviously goes up dead fast and then sounds like a ray gun. So I don't really know when you would use that. I think that's a bit. But definitely like, sounds like a ray gun. But you put it in the middle. I just wanted to remind you that it sounds lovely. Right, go low rate. So that's so subtle that you can barely hear it. But if you leave something on long, I won't talk over the guitar. If you leave something on long enough, you get that whooshy up and down thing. It almost adds a warmth. I think it does add a warmth between the valves and the phaser. You get quite nice sounds out of that. Now, if we add some analog delay, really starts to kind of open up the possibilities, and then add a wee bit of reverb. I don't have any idea how that's set up. So that's much nicer than what I imagine cheap flange pedals to be. So everything that rings out just becomes kind of really luscious and now I'm not big into the kind of metally twiddly world as you may have seen from other meanderings, but what if you look up phase, you instantly get to Eddie Van Halen, who I've never quite understood the fascination. So when you combine it with distortion, it becomes a whole new beast. So it's almost like there's even more flange, possibly because the signal's bigger that's coming through the distortion, and it's going into that flange. So it's almost like an alternative to an octave pedal, and again you want to kind of roll it off. nice, really kind of face melting lead lines. So when you do that, it kind of feels like it's always been there. It feels like it's always been part of what you imagine as guitar sound. So it's a really weird pedal. I love it. I used to play it live all the time. Then I felt I was doing it too much. So can I dip in and out of it every now and again? I'm sitting here looking for the last chord that I'm going to play. So yeah, it's they're not expensive. There's lots of different versions of them, so go and seek them out. I think it's a good way of kind of moving you off that kind of chorus, flange, plasticky modulation, although I have a chorus that I really like, which I will do soon. But at the moment, that's Phaser. That's where we're at. I might find other phasers and find out that my phaser isn't really that great. Goodbye.